glass slippers, true love's kiss, a perfect happily ever after. That's the fantasy they sold us. But what if I told you these beloved fairy tales were never meant to be beautiful? What if behind the sparkle and songs was blood, betrayal, and unthinkable pain? Brace yourself, because your childhood is about to be obliterated. In the real Cinderella, there's no fairy godmother, but there is foot mutilation, dripping blood, and birds pecking out eyes. And the Little Mermaid, she doesn't get the prince. She suffers in silence, loses her voice, and dissolves into sea foam after heartbreak. These weren't bedtime stories, they were rituals, warnings, and you were never supposed to know the truth. For generations we've been fed these stories, sanitized and simplified into shimmering animated classics. We think we know them. We think we know the heroines, their struggles, and their big, triumphant final scenes. But the truth is, the versions polished for the silver screen are often unrecognizable from where they came from. These tales weren't first written to soothe children to sleep with dreams of princes and palaces. They were cautionary tales, collected from oral traditions and absolutely filled with the grit and grim realities of the world. They were meant to warn, to teach, and sometimes just to shock. Today, we're pulling back the curtain of glitter and pixie dust to show you the grim, grisly, and downright horrifying origins behind 4 of your favorite fairy tales. We'll be counting them down from dark to downright diabolical. So get comfortable and prepare to see these stories in a terrifying new light. 4th, Rapunzel. Coming in at number 4 is the story of the girl with the famously long hair, Rapunzel. In Disney's Tangled, we get a spunky, artistic princess with magical glowing hair, who falls for a charming rogue and has a heartwarming reunion with her parents. It's a story of adventure and finding yourself. But the original story from the Brothers Grimm is a much darker tale about lust, punishment, and incredible suffering. It doesn't start with a stolen baby, but with a pregnant woman's desperate craving for rampion, which is like a type of lettuce growing in the garden of a powerful sorceress, Dame Gothel. Her husband, scared his wife will die from pure longing, sneaks into the garden, twice, to steal some. The second time, he's caught. Dame Gothel agrees to let him live, but on one condition. They have to give her their firstborn child. Terrified, the man agrees. When a baby girl is born, Gothel shows up, names her Rapunzel, and takes her. And just like the story we know, when Rapunzel turns 12, the enchantress locks her away in a tall tower with no doors and no stairs. But this isn't for Rapunzel's protection, it's a prison born out of pure control. Years pass, and a prince, drawn in by Rapunzel's beautiful singing, finds the tower and learns the secret to climbing her long, braided hair. He starts visiting her every night and they fall in love, but their secret affair has consequences. In the first Grimm version from 1812, Rapunzel naively gives them away. She asks Gothel why her clothes are suddenly getting so tight, revealing that she's pregnant. Gothel's rage is terrifying. She grabs a pair of shears, hacks off Rapunzel's hair, and throws the pregnant girl out into a desolate wilderness to survive on her own. When the prince arrives that evening, Gothel lets down the severed braids to trick him. When he gets to the top, he's met not by his love, but by the furious enchantress. She tells him he'll never see Rapunzel again. In total despair, the prince jumps from the tower. He survives, but he lands in thorns that blind him. For years, he just wanders the land, heartbroken and blind, surviving on roots and berries, crying out for his lost love. It's only after years of this agony that he stumbles into the same wasteland where Rapunzel has been living in misery, having already given birth to their twins, all alone. He recognizes her voice, and as she weeps in his arms, her tears fall into his eyes and magically restore his sight. So they do get a happily ever after, but only after years of isolation, blindness and hardship that Disney conveniently left on the cutting room floor. 3. Cinderella. At number 3, we have the most iconic rags to riches story ever, Cinderella. We all know the Disney movie. A kind girl is tormented by her evil step-family. A fairy godmother shows up, says bibbidi-bobbidi-boo, and poof, a gown, glass slippers, and a magical night at the ball. The prince finds her with the slipper, and they live happily ever after. But the version from the Brothers Grimm is way, way darker. In this tale, there's no fairy godmother. Cinderella's magic comes from a hazel tree she plants on her mother's grave, which she waters with her own tears. When the king announces a 3-day festival, it's not a fairy who helps her, but white birds from the tree who grant her wishes and give her stunning dresses. Now here's where the story takes a gruesome turn. When the prince arrives with the slipper, which by the way was made of gold, not glass, the wicked stepmother is determined to make one of her daughters a queen, no matter what. She hands a knife to her eldest daughter and says, "Cut off your toe. When you are queen, you will never have to go on foot." The girl actually does it, mutilates her own foot, and shoves it into the shoe. The prince is fooled and rides off with her. But as they pass the hazel tree on Cinderella's mother's grave, the magic birds cry out, "Rookie-goo! Rookie-goo! There's blood in the shoe! The shoe is too tight! This bride is not right!" The prince looks down, sees the blood pouring out, and realizes he's been tricked. He takes the fake bride right back. Not giving up, the stepmother tells her second daughter to cut off a piece of her heel. The sister does it, and the prince is fooled again. And once again the birds expose the bloody lie. Finally, the prince asks if there's another daughter. They reluctantly bring out the dirty Cinder girl. Of course, the golden slipper fits her perfectly. She is the true bride. But the story doesn't just end with a wedding. It ends with brutal eye-for-an-eye revenge. As Cinderella's wedding takes place, the 2 wicked stepsisters show up, trying to get back on her good side, but those magical pigeons from the hazel tree aren't having it. During the ceremony, the birds fly down and peck out the stepsisters' eyes, leaving them blind for the rest of their lives as punishment for their wickedness. If these twisted tales are already making you second-guess your entire childhood, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming next, because believe me, it only gets darker from here. 2. The Little Mermaid. Swimming into our number 2 spot is the mermaid who dreamed of living on land. Disney's Ariel is a bright-eyed teenager who trades her voice for legs to win over Prince Eric. After some funny mishaps and a fight with a fabulous sea witch, she gets her voice back, marries the prince, and everyone's happy. Hans Christian Andersen's original 1837 story, however, isn't a romance. It's a devastating tragedy about unrequited love and the desperate need for an immortal soul. In his tale, mermaids live for 300 years and then just dissolve into sea foam. They cease to exist. Humans, on the other hand, have eternal souls. The Little Mermaid's main motivation isn't just a crush on the prince, it's a deep, existential fear. She wants a soul, and the only way to get one is if a human loves her and marries her. Her deal with the sea witch is horrifying. She doesn't just sign a scroll. The witch literally cuts out her tongue, leaving her mute forever. And the legs she gets, they are a source of constant torture. Every single step she takes feels like she's walking on sharp knives. But she bears the pain, even dancing for the prince. He's enchanted by her beauty, but he treats her more like a cute, silent pet than a future wife. He likes her, but he never actually falls in love with her. Tragically, the prince thinks a different woman, a princess from a nearby kingdom, is the one who saved him from drowning. He falls in love with and marries her. The mermaid's heart breaks because she knows that the morning after his wedding, she's doomed to die and dissolve into sea foam. On the prince's wedding night, her sisters appear with one last desperate option from the sea witch. They've traded their beautiful hair for an enchanted dagger. If the mermaid kills the prince and lets his blood drip onto her feet, they'll turn back into a fin, and she can return to the sea. She takes the dagger and finds the sleeping prince and his new bride. But she can't do it. She can't kill the man she still loves. She throws the dagger into the ocean, and as the sun comes up, she throws herself into the water, her body dissolving into foam. But her story doesn't quite end there. Because she was so selfless, she doesn't disappear. Instead, she becomes a daughter of the air, an ethereal spirit. She's told that after 300 years of doing good deeds, she might finally earn an immortal soul. It's not a happy ending. It's an eternity of bittersweet servitude, all for a love that was never returned. 1. Sleeping Beauty. And now, for the #1 fairy tale that will absolutely destroy your childhood, Sleeping Beauty. The Disney classic gave us Princess Aurora, cursed by the amazing villain Maleficent to prick her finger on a spinning wheel and die. A good fairy softens the curse to a deep sleep, broken only by true love's kiss. Prince Philip fights a dragon, kisses the princess, and the kingdom wakes up. Simple. But long before Disney, even before the Brothers Grimm, there was a story called Sun, Moon and Talia. Written by an Italian author named Giambattista Basile in 1634, this first version is so disturbing it makes every other story on this list look like a bedtime story. In Basile's tale, a lord's daughter, Talia, is fated to be endangered by a splinter of flax. Her father tries to protect her, but the prophecy comes true and she falls into a death-like sleep. Her father is so heartbroken he can't bear to bury her, so he just leaves her in one of his country estates. Sometime later, a king is out hunting, and his falcon flies into the abandoned building. He follows it inside and finds the beautiful, unconscious Talia. He tries to wake her up, but he can't. And this is where the story takes its darkest possible turn. The king does not kiss her. He sexually assaults the unconscious princess. And once he's done, he just leaves her there on the bed and goes back to his own kingdom, where he is already married. While still asleep, Talia gets pregnant and gives birth to twins, a boy and a girl. Fairies care for the babies, and one day, one of them, looking for its mother's breast, starts sucking on her finger instead. In doing so, it sucks out the cursed flax splinter. Talia wakes up instantly, discovering she's a mother of 2 with absolutely no idea how it happened. But the horror isn't over. The king eventually comes back. When his wife, the queen, finds out about Talia and the children by hearing the king mutter their names in his sleep, she is consumed with jealous rage. She tricks Talia into sending the children to the court. The queen then orders her cook to kill the twins, cook them into a stew, and serve them to their father, the king. The cook is a good person and can't do it, so he hides the children and serves lamb instead. The furious queen then summons Talia to the court and orders her to be burned at the stake. But just as she's about to be thrown into the fire, the king arrives. He finds out about the queen's murderous plot and, in a final horrific twist, has the evil queen thrown into the very fire she had built for Talia. And the happily ever after. The story ends with Talia marrying the king, the same man who found her helpless and asleep and assaulted her. That is the original happy ending. A resolution built not on true love's kiss, but on violation, attempted cannibalism, and brutal revenge. From cutting off toes for a crown, to eternal torment for a love that wasn't real, to unspeakable violence masked as a romance, the happily ever afters we were sold are in many cases a complete lie. These stories weren't originally meant to give kids sweet dreams about a perfect world. They were warnings, moral lessons, and reflections of the very real and often brutal world they came from. The magic and the monsters were just window dressing for the deep-seated fears and harsh truths of life itself. If we successfully shattered your childhood, hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the dark side of the stories you thought you knew. And I have to ask, which of these happily ever afters was the most horrifying to you? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be reading them. Thanks for watching, and try to sleep well tonight.